Hey there, welcome back to my channel. So it's been 9 months since I've been off social media officially. So I deactivated my Instagram and Facebook accounts in August of 2022. And I made a video about getting off social media a couple of months ago. If you haven't seen that video, check it out over here. I'll put a card to it. And I know in my last video I said I would post about reasons why I think you might not be very happy in life, but I decided to change the topic. I thought I would share an update with you all about what life has been like, specifically in the last 3 months since getting off social media. In my first video where I shared about my experience getting off socials, I was actually really surprised at how that video took off and all the comments from you guys about how much what I said resonated with you all. And in that video, I talked about the final phase of my journey and called it the new normal. And I feel like the new normal has changed a little bit since then. So I thought I would just come on here and share an update. So the first thing that I quickly realized is that I actually have a pretty bad phone addiction. I definitely knew that I was spending way too much time on Instagram in particular, but since getting off Instagram and Facebook, I noticed that I've been flicking between different apps that I do currently have access to sometimes try and entertain myself. And this particularly happens when I am really, really bored. And I know I had a chat about this in my first video, but I think I'm still adjusting to being in the present moment and just kind of sitting with my thoughts and being okay with that when there's nothing going on around me and when I actually am truly very bored. Sometimes I will spend a lot of time on YouTube and on LinkedIn, and I'll also flick back and forth between my Gmails and my personal email and also my work emails as well. And now that YouTube has shorts, it's almost like watching Instagram Reels and TikTok. I'm not sure if you can relate, but I definitely can sometimes get lost down the YouTube rabbit hole. So over time, I've realized that I am a little bit addicted to my phone, and I have started taking very small steps to try and set more boundaries around my phone usage. So 2 things that I am quite good at doing now is not scrolling on my phone just before bed. So what I will do sometimes is listen to a podcast, and I'll put my phone down and just kind of close my eyes with my earphones in and just listen to my favorite podcasts. But I definitely try not to just sit there, Google things and scroll on my phone before bed. The second thing that I do is I don't take my phone with me when I walk Leo. I'm much more accepting of life being imperfect. Now, I know that there's no perfect life, but I have noticed that I'm less pedantic about things than I used to be. For example, a classic one that I'm sure a lot of you can relate to is when I'm going out to eat or at a nice wine bar. I used to be so picky about making the table look really nice and aesthetic and taking photos of every single dish. Recently, we actually had a family cocktail night where Richard and his siblings and I got together, and we, each couple made a new cocktail for the rest of the group, and that was lots of fun. And on that night, Richard and I were actually trying a new cocktail recipe, and it was interesting. I actually was not worried at all about how the cocktail would turn out in terms of looks and aesthetics, and we were a lot more focused on trying a new recipe and making it taste as good as possible. And I definitely feel like if I was still on Instagram, that would not have been the case. I would have gone into a lot more planning to think about how do I want it to look really aesthetic, and got my phone ready to capture all the moments and what the final cocktail looked like. But it was just really chill for us. We didn't even prep some of the limes that we were meant to juice. We kind of just did that on the spot, and then we were a little nervous, but we worked through it together and we had some fun while doing it. And the cocktails turned out great. So it was good. It was a good time. Overall, I feel like my expectations about how life should be or how certain moments should look have definitely lowered. And this has made me feel a lot more calm and less anxious overall. The other thing I've noticed is I definitely don't rush through tasks as much as I used to. I have always been an impatient person, and I always had a tendency to rush through things, especially if it was tasks or chores that I did not enjoy. And I would always give myself so much anxiety or really work myself up when I had to do several of those tasks or chores in a row. For example, if I came home and I knew that the washing was not done, the dishes need to be washed, and we had to vacuum, I had like a mental list of all things that had to be done. I would just work myself up and make myself really anxious for some reason. In my mind, I used to be like, I need to get all of this done, over and done with, so I can just get it out of the way. But now I'm more like, well, I know these chores need to be done, so I might as well take my time and enjoy the process. I've started finding ways to make those kind of chores or tasks more enjoyable. One of my favorite things is to put on some really nice tunes, and I'm really liking lo-fi tunes or some nice jazz playlists. I'm definitely also more mindful about deliberately doing things at a slower pace. And I feel a lot more intentional and more grounded when I approach life in this way. So it's been really good. As I mentioned, I do spend quite a bit of time on YouTube, but for me, YouTube feels a lot more educational than something like Instagram or Facebook. But even after a while of spending time on YouTube, I feel like sometimes I do still feel a little bit overwhelmed, and I feel like I've had a lot of mental stimulation and I do need to take a break. I honestly cringe when I think about spending lots of time now on platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And I think the FOMO is gone. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything by not being on these platforms. And I can get by just fine without always being kept up to date about everything that's happening on social media. I feel like my brain is already very busy thinking about a lot of things that are happening in my life. So I was starting a new job. I'm getting married in November this year, so a lot of wedding planning stuff, which then comes with sometimes family drama and friendship stuff. So there's already so much going on in my life, and I think having social media on top of all of that will just add more overwhelm. One thing I miss about having Instagram and Facebook is being able to go on to a business's page and suss out their products and services. I used to love going on Instagram and looking at pages for restaurants and cafes to see what their menu and vibe is like. And some of the newer businesses and freelancers only have Instagram and they don't have a website, which can make things a little tricky for a potential customer like me that's off social media. For example, I did find it a little tricky when I was trying to look for a hair and makeup artist for my wedding, because so many of them have Instagram pages that markets their portfolio. So that was a little bit tricky. But I have survived by just seeing a limited number of posts of that person's profile. And because Instagram doesn't allow you to scroll too far down someone's profile without an active account, it stops me from getting down a rabbit hole on Instagram. So again, I feel like this is something I can manage, and it's only a very short-term inconvenience. I do really appreciate the space to live my own life and keep things a little bit more private. And this makes my conversations with my friends and family a lot more interesting when we do catch up. I remember when I was on Instagram, I was posting a lot on my stories about what I was doing on the weekends and after work. And when I would eventually catch up with people, I actually felt a sense of awkwardness in the conversation with my family and friends, because I knew that they had watched my stories already and they already knew what I had got up to. So I was just kind of filling in the gaps of my Instagram stories. So it made the conversations less meaningful. Now I'm really just focused on enjoying the moment. I'm a lot more present, even when I'm just going for a walk around the block. And I'm more focused on having a mindful experience rather than capturing the best shot of that moment. And this has decreased my stress levels and improved my mental health overall. I'm also no longer bombarded with people's highlight reels of their lives, and I feel like it puts life into a more realistic perspective for me. So there you have it. That's some updates on what my life has been like since being off socials for 9 months. I don't want to say that I'll never go back on social media, but really, I feel like the longer I'm away from it, the less I want to go back and the less I feel like I'm missing out on something. At first, it was a bit of an adjustment because so many people around me have it, and I was so used to just taking my phone out to capture every moment. All of a sudden not having that, I was like, oh, it took time to adjust to that. But now that I've been off it for so long, I just feel like there's so many more benefits of not being on it, and that feeling of FOMO is really going away. I do feel like these quit social media videos are becoming more and more popular, and even with the younger generation, I think they're realizing the negative impacts that it can have on your life. And so I feel like there's more people jumping on the bandwagon to either get off it completely or take a break from it. But let me know in the comments below what you thought of the video. Let me know whether you're considering going off social media, whether you've been off for a while, and what it's been like for you. I'm really keen to hear your experiences as well. I am filming this video on my work lunch break, so I will love you and leave you here. But until next time, bye.